Greetings everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about the Nim-Lang, our Nim programming language. I guess it's just called Nim, and it's not the beloved 80s cartoon. No. It is, even though I love that, right? Kids just watched it. They glued because it's an awesome cartoon. If you haven't watched that, go watch that too. But no, it's the Nim programming language because I'm of the mind that some of the coolest red teaming tools that we have, well, they're the ones we build ourselves. That said, before we get too deep in the weeds, please make sure you find the subscribe and like button. Hit those things as hard as you possibly can, digitally, not actually. You break your stuff. We don't want to do that. And of course, leave a comment because we like to talk. I do anyway. I don't know if you noticed that I'm a bit verbose. Someone put the -VV option on me and I can't stop. Anyway, that takes us into Nim. Let's get into it. Let's see here. Here is the website, right, that tells us all about Nim. So if you want to take a little more look at that or get installed, look at the documentation, all that lovely stuff is here. It's at nim-lang.org for your enjoyment. There's your installation. You can even play with it online to some varying degrees of usefulness there. It's just, again, for you to kind of get your toes in the water, as it were, with Nim. But you want to run over to that download section, find whatever platform you're running on. I'm in Unix, Linux, so I click on that. And for me, it was as easy as just choosing this first option right here, which is a curl command, run it through, just an installation script, and I'm gravy. It was fairly simple. You can also go with the pre-built binaries. I believe there are also some apt package. Some repositories out there have it as an app package, but as you can see, you can also run in Mac OS. We've got Linux, other dependencies that you might need. So OpenSSL, PCRE, you're going to need those if you don't, but this should work. Here we go, package manager. So you got Pacman, apt-get, Docker, right? Fedora, so DNF, PKG for FreeBSD, Brew. Man, they just about everything you can think of is covered there. So if you need to get it up and running, that should be a fairly painless process. Now, I do also highly recommend you run over to the documentation because if you're new to Nim, which you probably are, because I can't really find a lot of people that know a ton about Nim other than the people that are already in the Nim community, and they're fairly few and far between. But if people like you and I start ringing the bell on this thing, well, it'd probably take off in a flash, and that'd be pretty cool in my book. All right, so you've got learn Nim in 5 minutes. Go there. And I don't actually want to go there. What does learn Nim in 5 minutes look like? I don't know. I didn't click on that one. I think I was using the different tutorials. So learn X in Y minutes. That's fun. Nim is... okay, anyway. Kind of gives you just some of the basic functionality of Nim. So if you're familiar with programming, that, I know, looks teeny tiny. There you go. You should probably be able to walk through this and pick up the language fairly quickly. It's what I liked about it, is it's really simple. You got a Nim Basics tutorial. This is where you're really going to want to start if you're new, like super new. And you can see it says for programming beginners right there. And yeah, that's a great place to start. These official tutorials are also pretty good. It has a macro language that goes in it as well. Talks about how it's for C programmers. These are guides for C programmers. If you're coming from Python, if you're coming from JavaScript, this thing does a lot and has a lot of, it's very much a multi-purpose. And I think we saw that if you go back to the main page. Nim is a statically typed compiled systems language. All right, so a little backstory here, right? Where's my cursor? Here's how I kind of stumbled across Nim. I was looking to, I'm always working on trying to make something that will kind of act as my quote-unquote malware. Give me ReversShell, encrypt a file, do whatever. And of course I want to bypass the lovely antivirus systems that are out there, various and sundry as they may be. And of course, it's a struggle. I was using Go. I was working with Go, and Go was all right. I was like, yeah, all right. I wanted a compiled language though, right? Because with Python, you either had to have Python installed or try that Py to exe kind of business. And I was having various success with all that stuff. So I'm like, and then something popped up that was Nim. And I'm like, what is Nim? Nim. I mean, look at this Nim thing, right? So I'm going to give you some really good. Let's go back to our browser here and get that up. And there is a Git repository, and this changed my life. I was like, ooh, this is nice. So it is just offensive Nim. I'm just Google searching the words offensive and Nim. And that should take us to dun 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 dun. This is offensivenim.github. Yeah, this looks right. This is the first result. I'm just going with that. There we go. From Byte Bleeder. That's right. I couldn't remember the guy's name or the person's name who created this repository. But Byte Bleeder's offensive Nim repo and Git or GitHub. And lots of stuff in here. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, what is this? Offensive Nim, why Nim, examples in the repo, compiling. It kind of gave you just quick and dirty run into, here's some things you can do with Nim. And I'm like, things you can do in Nim that look cool, that I like, right? Compiles directly to C, C++, Objective-C, and JavaScript. I like how it says it doesn't rely on a VM runtime, and so it does not produce what I like to call thick malwares, as opposed to other languages like Golang. Golang does typically get a little... So the compiled binary is typically a little larger than most people would like. Anyway, move down. There's cool stuff in this repo, and you can take a look at what they do, like execute assembly. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Block DLLs, embed a resource like a zip file, self-delete, AMC patch, WMI queries, outcompress, shellcode callback, shellcode binary, shellcode, syscalls, execute PowerShell, right? So this caught my eye, and that's what kind of got me on the Nim bandwagon. So I'll put a link to this in the description below for you good folks out there. So now, what can we do with the Nim? Well, I thought, hey, of course, one of the first things I always like to do when it comes to a new programming language is, can I get the dang thing to make a network connection and allow me to pass it commands, and it said execute said commands for, my fun and profit. So can I create something that does not have a signature in VirusTotal and Windows Defender and all that other stuff necessarily, and get past any kind of like Windows Defender going, hey, that looks a lot like a network socket guy, and here's the thing, I don't like network sockets because we don't do that here in Windows land. I can't tell you how often. That's exactly how my computer sounds, by the way. It actually speaks. Mine has an AI of some neckbeard and is a little annoying, but a lot of times when I'm trying to do things like create reverse shells, Windows Defender kind of pops that stuff. Interpreter, forget it, right? You take that standard off the shelf stuff and it says, Nein! You will not be doing this. You can't do it. Don't do it now. No! It's my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. I went from German to Austrian. Fun. Anyway, so that's where we're going to start today. Let's take a look. I've already written the code, tested it, everything already works. We're just going to kind of walk through it a little bit and take a look at that and show you what I'm doing, so you can kind of see how Nim works. And I got myself my own little tool that is, working, does the thing I want it to do. So in here, let's see here. This is my first take at it, and this is my second take, RevShell2.exe, and then I just outputted it as cool, right? I don't want to call things RevShell, right? That's a little, that might get you in trouble. But this is the code right here, RevShell2.nim. .nim files are Nim files, that makes sense, right? So let's just nano RevShell2.nim and see what we have going here. Now, doing a few funny things. We're just going to kind of walk through this really quickly to see what it's doing, see what my thought process was, and give you just a hint of introduction to what Nim is and how you can work with it. So I'm importing a few libraries. Obviously, I need a network library. This OS proc library is for me executing operating system processes or functions or methods, whatever you like to call it. Giving it commands, system commands. That's how I feed it to my target. And then string format is for when it comes to a lot of different programming languages, Python included, right? You'll have those different types of data. You have to make sure those are the correct types, or it kind of complains at you. So I have to make sure that that happens. I'm going to have to format some data so that it is a string and not something else. And then times, which is a fun one, is somebody asked me the other day, I say the other day, it was either yesterday or the day before, they said, hey, isn't a great way for AV bypass is to add like a sleep function so that it doesn't fire off right away, kind of waits a set amount of time before it actually fires off something malicious, and therefore the AV kind of checks to see what it does right out of the gate, and after so long kind of goes, well, it doesn't look like it's doing anything bad, so it must be safe. And they were absolutely right. That is a tried and true method for circumventing AV detection, is to just have it sit there and don't do anything for a little while, and then once it's done not doing anything, then do all the bad stuff. And that way the AV goes, well, it's not doing anything. I've got a fly in my room. Kill it. Anyway, it's not doing anything. Go away. I don't like you. It's an annoying little bugger, isn't he? I guess that's why they call them bugs. Hopefully there's no bugs in my code. That would be great. Where was I? I lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. So wait a set amount of time. That way it thinks you're safe, and then we're good. So that's what's going on here. And I thought, well, here's the thing. Sleep is starting to become like a telltale sign. Not that you still can't get away with it. You probably can in some instances. But now it's going to be less and less, especially, with other things with that. It's going to go, oh, warning, this might be something not good. Okay, so how do we get around using sleep and still make the dang thing sleep? That was the question. I said, that's a good question. Some people talk to, I hear things. I have rumblings, haunts that I go to, and they were talking about, you can do some sort of mathematical computations, maybe encoding and de-encoding and encrypting and de-encrypting. And after, do large numbers, moving memory. There's lots of ways you can do this. But I thought, I need simple because I'm not like that level of a programmer. So I need something simple. So I came up with this idea right here, which is, so I'm just declaring a variable that's called now1. All right. And this is the now proc or process that is built into the standard library of Nim, which deals with time. It comes from the times process. This would be like, I don't know, a function or a method. I don't know how they call it. Again, still fairly new to me especially when it comes to terminology and things. So we use now plus, and then I tell it 30 seconds, minutes, hours, whatever. So I put 30 seconds. So this thing will wait 30 seconds before it does anything else. And yet we're not using wait. Now, this is just a variable. I'm telling it that now1 equals whatever today's date and time is, and then add 30 seconds to that. So it's a random thing because whenever it runs, will be at a random time. It's not predictive, right? You get the idea. And then I just have this var I equals 1. That way I give it something to do in this loop. So I just create a while loop that says while now is less than or equal to now1. So if it ran right now and it's 2:08 p.m. and 10 seconds, it's gonna actually run after 30 seconds. So at 2:08, 40 seconds, this will actually exit out of the loop. So it's gonna be checking that over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes true. And once it becomes true, it's gonna jump out. And while it's doing that, it's just gonna say, hey, var I equals I plus 1. So it started off as 1, so the first iteration will become 2 and 3 and 4. So it's basically just counting. Fun, right? So that's my own like quote unquote sleep function. I wrote my own sleep function instead of relying on the built-in. All right, that brings us to the fun stuff, which, there we go, getting the mouse to move there. Come on, scroll it on down. This brings us to where we start the network socket. So I've got let. Cool thing about this is all this block right here. Cool thing about Nim is it works in blocks. It says, hey, if you indent, and that is necessary. It's kind of like Python in that way. In some cases, that indentation is required, or indentation. It's going to be required. But if I want anything to kind of work as a group on different lines, I can use indentation to make that happen. And it likes spaces. I don't think it likes tabs too much. Just saying. And so let is how I declare a variable. Here I am overloading a variable. I have an IP, which equals the IP of my attacking machine. I have a port, which equals the port that I'm going to have open on my attacking machine to catch shell traffic. And I have sock equals new socket. Creating a TCP socket, let's do that, right? Then we come down just a little bit, and we have sock.connect. So I'm going to say, hey, take that new socket that I, threw in my variable sock, and run the connect method, which requires a couple of things, which are the IP and the port. Well, I have IP and port already defined, so I can just throw it in there. Port needs to kind of be done this way. All that's in the documentation. I just read this straight out of the std/net documentation for Nim. And so I said, oh, okay, port is going to be whatever I defined port as. So I just threw my variable in there. I could have easily just put 443, but then I've got a variable I'm not using for no good reason. And if I had to use that over and over and over again, I can now just use the variable. And if it changes, I just change the one variable and then they all change later. So I like doing it that way. All right, moving down. Now that we have a connection to an IP on a port, what do we want to do? I'm going to say let prompt equal Nim-Shell, right? So this is just a string of text kind of giving us a prompt. Once we open the connection, a prompt should appear letting me know that the connection is good. And I've got like a little arrow thing going on. It tells me I'm in the Nim-Shell. It's just helpful. Otherwise, you don't have to do that. I just do it for user interaction, user experience, UX, UI, whatever it's called. All right, then I create a infinite loop. Yeah, I could do this better, probably do threads or whatever, but this works fine for right now. So I just say while true, while what's true? While anything's true, do send the sock and the prompt, right? So, hey, make that connection actually go and do it forever. Don't stop, right? That's why we're in this infinite loop. Then let bad equal receive line sock, right? So receive line is kind of like how it takes in input and then in between these two parentheses is going to be like, what is the input you want to do? Well, I'm taking anything that comes from the socket connection, right? You start to see where this is going, hopefully. And then I say let cmd equal exec process. This is where I had to do that format string business. So this was kind of like throwing me errors. I had a lot of trouble with this out of the gate because it was telling me you have like an integer type or you have a string type and I'm expecting integer or something. It was giving me data type mismatch kind of stuff. So then I discovered this and I was able to change that from format. I used that format command to take all this and make it a string, and that's how it should be. So now I can pass that string along and then I concatenate with the ampersand whatever's in bad. So bad, remember, is what I send it from my attacking side. It's going to come in, take that, add that to the CMD process, and run cmd.exe/c, whatever I tell it to run. You can do PowerShell as well if you liked. I just went, again, easy. I was going for the easy button. Then you hit send, right? So send, I send the sock, I send the command, and things should work. That's the idea anyway. I based this off of HuskyHacks. So I'll put links. I'll be a bunch of links in the description below. I'll probably slap this in a GitHub repo as well for you good folks. And that will all be here as well. But HuskyHacks and Taggart T, they did like pen testing with Nim or a Nim for pen testers, something like that. I'll find the link. I'll put it in here. It was a great talk. Basically did the same thing. I couldn't use their code verbatim. It didn't work for me. So I modified it. I made it a little different and then it worked. But hey, that's the fun part of this. I learned a ton from that. So HuskyHacks, awesome stuff. All right. So that said, to compile this, I will show you how to do that. This is just another terminal, right? So you just say nim, C, you don't not dash C, just C, then dash D, colon, Ming W. Where's W? There it is. Ming W, and then this is ReversShell2.nim. And then fire away, compile, compile, compile. It's doing the thing. Looks like it's done. You notice I didn't get any kind of errors or warnings or anything like that. Everything should be gravy. And now I have rev2 sh.exe, which is the same thing as cool.exe. Zang. Serve it up with Python, make, zip it up, slap it inside of a email or whatever you like. This is where we get to do, our social engineering. We like social engineering. Build the story behind why the end user would want to, or if you had some sort of execution, and this was going to be easier than trying to get a Netcat up that's going to get popped, or running an interpreter, right? These things come in handy from time to time. All right, let's go back. Let's get it ready. So I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to use Netcat. Actually, I will close this. Control X. I'll clear this, and we'll use Netcat here. So, I'm going to do sudo, because if you remember, I put it on port 443. Sudo nc-nvlp on 443. Bam, put my password in. Did I type it right? No. Nope. That password, it's tricky. It's tricky. Man, I cannot literally do this. My password, it's too difficult for even me. There we go. Listening on 443. Now that we have that, let us jump over and run this thing, shall we? So I'm just gonna open, I have downloads, and I have this testing folder, and right there is a little program called Cool, right? We've seen that. Run it. See what it does. Of course, here comes the Windows protection. It says, Microsoft Defender Smart Screen prevented an unrecognized app from starting. Running this app might put your PC at risk. So you are getting some stuff from old Windows there. And it says don't run, or you can hit this more info and hit run anyway, which I am doing, which brings this up. Looking for this. Now, remember, it's waiting 30 seconds before it actually does anything. So it's not going to just fire off. I'm trying to bypass Defender from going, that was Smart Screen. That wasn't Defender. Smart Screen was just saying, hey, this is an exe you downloaded from the internet. That might not be, I can't verify this. You sure you want to do that? And that's when I hit the more info. Yeah, I want to run this. This is cool. Aha. We see some fun things, right? And then it started sleeping. It took 30 seconds. We have Nim-Shell. I do, if I do, what is it, CD? Tells me I'm in the testing, right? dir. Look at that. I'm running Windows. I have net users. Cool. I'm logged in as who am I? I'm logged in as Lenovo. So net users, Lenovo. And you can see I'm part of the administrators group. So I'm doing pretty well here. I'm having a good time. I've got ReversShell, my own little tool. It did not get popped. I will say that before I added my own little funky sleep function, it ran, but I did get a Defender pop up that was like, hey, this thing's kind of weird. Can we submit this to Microsoft? I was like, no. You don't need to submit nothing. That's fine. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. All right, don't do that. So it did recognize that it was doing something weird. Since I've added the sleep utility, I haven't had that pop up again. Not to say that it won't, but as of right now, let me just check. Yeah, as of right now, it's not complaining. So there you go. I used Nim to create a basic network reverse shell using some trickery in there by creating that sleep function, and it was fairly straightforward. I'm going to be honest with you. Literally took me to learn enough Nim and then build the reverse shell, debug any kind of errors, and create the sleep function. Probably a total of 3 hours. I would say that from start to finish. From zero to ReversShell in 3 hours. That is what I thought was cool about Nim. It's compiled, right? You can do a lot of stuff. Compiles down to C. It's a really, really cool language. I'm going to make sure all those resources, the good stuff that you're going to need to get kind of up to where I'm at with it, is in the description so you can start playing with Nim. Spread the love. Let people know. Shout it from the rooftops. Nim is the language of choice. And then you never know, we'll see like a Red Team Nim book or course or something. You never know. Maybe if I get feeling good about myself, I'll create like a Red Team Nim kind of thing. And that'd be fun. Think about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you can learn more about Nim. Hope you like Nim and spread it to tell your friends, right? So that they learn to like Nim and we get it to start being used. It's a lot of fun. It's a really useful language. It's super fast and it's safe. So yeah, check it out. That said, I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, keep hacking.